Study war no more, I ain't gonna study war no more. Study war no more.
We're gathered here because this is the 5th anniversary, can you believe it? 5 years ago today, we invaded Iraq. And our president, and I didn't vote for him either, but he is our president. Like it or not, he's our president. Called it shock and awe. Remember that? And it was right. It was right. It was very, very shocking. What was the guy thinking? And it was pretty awful.
In history, Dwight Eisenhower, president who was also the Allied commander during World War II in Europe, he said, "The people of the world want peace so much that someday the governments are going to have to step aside and let them have it." Well, I think
since World War II, we, the American public, the American country, the American people supporting their governments have overthrown, literally overthrown, 30 different countries in the world whose leaders had been elected democratically.
One of the ways in which there will be peace is if we begin to educate the very young about the values of peace.
We need to maintain our energy once the war is over and work to build a world government that can handle these problems, a strong one. The UN is great, it does a lot of good stuff, but it's not strong enough. We need something even stronger. So I encourage you, when this is over, let's think long term. What can we do to change things so we don't get another war in another 10, 20 years?
Our president is telling us the situation in Iraq has improved. This is very frustrating to listen to him and to see many Americans believing him. It is not true. I just talked to my nephew 2 days ago. Very sad stories you hear. I have a refugee sister in Jordan. I cannot get her out of there, living in a very sad situation there. Our president is lying. He lied. He went into Iraq based on lies, and he is still lying. And unfortunately, many people are believing him.
There really is one force that believes that domination is the way the world should be. And it teaches that this is the only real world in which we live. Well, some of us reject political realism. We see it as the problem.
My name is Nathan Dietrich. I'm from Congresswoman Matsui's office. I want to thank some of the folks that put this event on today for inviting me here and for working with us over the last few years. And I want you to know that Congresswoman Matsui cares just like each of you, and time to bring our troops home, past time to bring our troops home. And when they get home, make sure they have the services they need, the help they need to get back into society and school and whatever else can we do.
We're over trying to get the second largest oil field in the world. Okay, that's where they're at. Okay, and Saudi Arabia is a terrorist country, if you don't know that. We get a third of our oil from them.
The work is not done once we get the war stopped. We have a whole society that we've destroyed, as our sister shared. And we have countless numbers of people whose lives, even though they may still be alive, are coming back, who are going to need an incredible amount of help to reestablish life and for those who are injured to go on. And we have a call to do the work in Iraq in any way that we can be helpful and listening to the people of that area, which we obviously didn't do when we went in, and to help the men and women who are coming back.
What does that country have? Pineapples? Palm trees? It's got the second, maybe the first largest reserves of oil left on the planet right now. And guess who's the biggest consumer of that commodity on the earth? We are, the United States, and the single biggest consumer within the United States in terms of institutions is, guess what? The military. Why? Why does the military need so much fossil fuels? Because it's trying to run an empire. It's trying to dominate the world. And it's not defending democracy. Kuwait wasn't a democracy. Saudi Arabia wasn't a democracy and isn't a democracy. It's a monarchy. So we're not really about defending democracy, let's face it. That's not what we're about. We're about domination. We're about control. And we're willing to bomb countries into smithereens to get that control. And we've got to stop that. We've got to stop the funding for this war. We've got to stop the bombing. I mean, bombing is terrorism. We create these fine little distinctions. We say the guy who puts a bomb around his waist and goes in and kills civilians is a terrorist. That's a very fine distinction. But what if we go over a city like Baghdad with 6 million people in it, and we give it shock and awe, and we drop missiles on it, and we drop bombs on it, and we drop cluster bombs on it, and we kill hundreds of thousands of people? In fact, the latest British study says over 1 million people have died in Iraq as a result of our invasion. Now, why are these war criminals, Dick Cheney and George W. Bush, still sitting in office? Why are they still there? I want to know, why are they there?
All of your knowledge should be directed towards us because we are the ones who are going to go out there and be the new voters. I just turned 18, so I can vote. So you should get your children and your grandchildren and tell them all your wonderful knowledge.
A month ago, my son joined the Marines. And he's been to peace rallies and baseball games and eaten hot dogs and been taught to live with his head and his heart hand in his hands. And he's a really, really fine young man. There's a lot of people out there who don't realize that we have had 700,000 young people go to this war. And something's desperately wrong. That my son felt that because he didn't know what he wanted to do, he didn't know what he wanted to major in, and he didn't want to waste time or money on college before he knew. And he didn't want to wash dishes, and he didn't want to work for Taco Bell. That the salary and the opportunity to become a man for the Marines, that looked good to him because there were so many damn recruiters at City College.
George has told us his plans for after he leaves office. He is going back to the ranch and he's going to put his feet up. Well, I'm not going to put my feet up. And I can hardly imagine that there's a person in this room who's going to put their feet up.
I'm all for him putting his feet up right now, as far as I'm concerned.
I just wanted to say thank you all for being here and for everything that you do. My husband recently returned from Iraq 15 months. And we've been against the war in Iraq since before it started. We watched it start, and we knew that there was something wrong. My husband was sent over there on a stop loss, and they stole 15 months of our lives. And my 2 little boys right here. So I thank you so much for everything that you're doing to bring our soldiers home and to take care of them when they get here. Thank you.
The program is called Winter Soldiers, and it's what really is happening, what really the soldiers are having to say.
C-SPAN was going to air Winter Soldier, but they did not. You should email C-SPAN. Go on their website, cspan.org, and email them asking them why they're not airing the atrocities that are going on there.
I'm a Vietnam combat veteran who, by the time I came home, I was completely against that war. I think a good model for progressive values is the European Union. If we tried to join the European Union, we wouldn't come close. We couldn't come close to fulfilling the rules that they require for progressive support of all the people.
Eisenhower also warned us about the threat of the military-industrial complex. And I think that what we've learned is that governments and people in government who profit from war are not going to voluntarily step aside and let us have peace.